Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ryan Simmons back again, and I just want to talk about today what is an IO psychologist? All right, so you guys have heard me say IO psychologist quite a bit in these videos, and I'm not sure I really described it well to everyone. And if you're wondering what an IO psychologist is, this is the video for you. If you're thinking about maybe going into this career set, I believe it really is interesting. It's something that I was passionate about since I was in middle school. Yeah, I knew what I wanted to do when I was in middle school. How much of a dork am I? But that's a great thing. I'm in my mid 30s and I'm still excited about it. And I've been able to apply it for over 10 years. And specifically, I should say, this is applied psychology. This is the applied side. This is not the research side. If you want research side of IO psychology, I'm sure there are tons of other videos out there of people who do this for a living who are fantastic at it. I just didn't find it as interesting. Sorry, guys. So what is IO psychology? If you're talking about the industrial side, IO psychology is industrial organizational psychology. Industrial came from more of a hard analytics look at organizations. And really taking the data and making decisions based upon the data, making changes based upon the data. And this came out of World War I, World War II, and some of the work in project management as well. It's something that we sometimes drop the industrial part because organizational psychology kind of still explains it all. The organizational side is the people side. So it's really getting into group dynamics. It's getting into what is leadership. It's talking about how do we work together. And if you think about it, that's a lot of the people problems that we have within organizations. How are we working together effectively? How are we working together when we are experiencing conflict? How are we working together as an organization after we get siloed off? And believe me, everyone's organization gets siloed off at some point. So organizational psychology with the industrial psychology is the synthesis that creates this fantastic branch of psychology. Now, the way that you talk about psychology is a little different within industrial organizational psychology than most people think. When somebody says, I'm an IO psychologist, most of the time your relatives, your friends, and a number of people on the street will think, oh, well, you deal with mental health. You're not a clinical psychologist. So you're not necessarily dealing with mental health. You're trying to prevent people from having mental health issues like burnout and needing to deal with issues after conflicts. So the post-traumatic stress and the post-traumatic growth. We don't deal with abnormalities. So if you have schizophrenia, bipolar, or any other number of mental health issues, please go see a clinical psychologist. If you need medication, you go to a psychiatrist. Psychiatrists have a medical degree. Since we deal with organizations, so this is for-profit, nonprofit, government organizations, basically it's a group of 3 or more people that have come together towards a common goal. We deal with 3 things: people problems, change within your organization, and development of your organization. So when I say people problems, I'm talking all the things that come with people. So that's going to be your selection. That's going to be talent. That's going to be all the onboarding that you're doing for the people coming in. It's going to be anything that can cause a problem with people in your organization. But it's also the change. When you think of change, a lot of people think of project management. Project management is just part of your change. When you're looking at change management, especially from a ProSci or ADCAR model, you're looking at the leadership, the sponsor of that change. You're looking for the project manager of that change. And then you're also looking for the change management. And that's usually where you find somebody like myself coming in, because we're trying to look at adoption of the change, whether that's a new program coming in or that's an organizational culture shift that we're trying to make. We're trying to make sure that the adoption happens so that when project management and the sponsor come to the people, they found that the change is implemented and has been accepted. 70% or more changes fail because they don't have somebody in this role acting effectively. The third thing, of course, is the development part. And development means not just of your talent base. So it's talking about the training, it's talking about coaching, it's talking about trying to make sure that you have the people that you need for the next part of your business, for the next step, because this is a life cycle and your needs are going to change within your organization as to what kind of talent you have and how you're going to address workforce issues in the future. When we talk about this in consulting, it's usually workplace of the future or workforce of the future planning. And we discuss how do we take you from where you're at to where you need to be more competitive, more effective as an organization. And for that, you talk to somebody like me. So why is IO psychology so different and so impactful compared to some of the more traditional business roles out there? Well, I will say it's definitely impactful because first, we work off of database solutions. And yeah, people like to say database solutions all the time, but really our information is based off of both best practices from peer scientific reviews, empirical studies that are done, field studies that are done on what works, what doesn't work, and why. Secondly, I will say that we are trained observers. And well, yeah, anybody can observe anything, and maybe you've got an eye for detail. We know what we're looking for specifically based off of what we know is best practice and what can work for your organization versus what will work for somebody else's organization. To get an IO degree, to be a practicing IO psychologist, you have to have minimum a master's degree level of training. Usually before that, you've gone through business and or psychology training as a major, or maybe just a real strong minor in your undergraduate degree work. There are others of us who have doctorates out there. Now, my specific doctorate isn't IO psychology, it's organizational leadership, which just means I specified in leadership. But I have that base of knowledge and I have that extra training to be an IO psychologist. Now, in other places, you do need a certification, but for that, you will need to go to each state, and psyop.org is a great place to go and take a look and see if you actually need to go get a license. Most states don't require a license. The first thing I wish people would know about IO psychology is that IO psychologists are jacks of all trade within our space. So our space is usually within HR. So human resources is where you'll normally find IO psychologists, and sometimes they're, human capital. Sometimes it's described as being organizational development. Sometimes these are your people who are doing the training or instructional design. There's so much that we can do within HR. It's like HR on steroids. No offense to all the HR people out there. I think you do a fantastic job. But if you're looking for somebody to be the start or the catalyst for a change in your organization, do something a little bit higher level, you should reach out to an IO psychologist. Another thing I found within IO psychology that I find kind of frustrating when engaged with businesses is that they don't use our skills effectively. As I said, we're jacks of all trades within that space. So just sticking somebody who's an IO psychologist in analytics or survey design and implementation or change management is short-sighted. You are not getting your value out of these people, and they want you to get value out of them. People who go into this are usually highly driven and want to be able to use their skills for great change in your organization. So if you're sitting there saying, we don't have enough for this person, they're going to get bored, maybe you should do more. maybe that's a sign that something more needs to happen within your organization. Even if you're telling yourself, we don't have X, Y, and Z resource, or this isn't the right time. Talk to the person, see what they can do. Maybe it's not the right time, but you want to talk to somebody who is an expert in that process to find out. Lastly, you're hiring somebody with a lot of skill when you're hiring an IO psychologist, which usually comes with a lot of education. And I've noticed a lot of organizations balk out there when hiring somebody with a doctorate. Again, back to the point of this person might be bored. Do a little bit more, reach out to people, make some plans to do more with the person that you're about to hire. Somebody with a doctorate has a lot of motivation. Again, they want to do well for you. They want to do as much as possible. So this is your opportunity. Don't be afraid to take some risks and try to do something different. If you guys are interested in IO psychology a little bit more, I do have some more links down below to some books and podcasts and other things that you can go out. Maybe you guys want to find out a little bit more about what's a career progression for somebody, whether it's going to be, yes, going after the research side, which I'm not a researcher, or maybe it's going to be going into more the applied side like I did. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the comments below. I will be glad to answer any of your questions. If you want to reach out to me, I also have some of that information below. All right, guys, hope you liked the video. If you did like it, go ahead and like, maybe subscribe. I've got more videos coming out. And I'm Dr. Ryan Simmons, and I'll see you guys later.